No, Jimmy, I'm afraid that's still not correct. Let's go over it together.
Jimmy Stevens is having difficulty learning. He is not alone in this. In fact, according to the United States Department of Education, at least 12% of all youngsters in the 6 to 19-year age group in the United States have problems with learning. Many of these problems are due to emotional, physical, or mental handicaps, such as mental retardation, or to learning disabilities. These handicapping conditions range from quite severe to mild.
I'm really puzzled by Jimmy's lack of progress, Sue. At first I thought he wasn't trying, but he really is trying, and he seems so confused.
The referral form that you filled in gives me some very good information about Jimmy, but I need to ask you a few more questions. That's why I asked you to bring his notebooks and other kinds of papers today so we could go over them together. In the meantime, could you tell me then where you've seen the confusion that you talked about? In what kind of situation has it occurred?
One step often taken in gaining help for a student with problems is to refer the pupil to the school psychologist. The school psychologist is a professional trained in the diagnosis and remediation of problems which students have within the school setting. Students may be referred to the school psychologist by professionals within the school or by the student's parents for many reasons. These include difficulties in learning, such as a general overall lag in learning ability, or problems in a specific area of learning, such as reading or mathematics. Other types of problems which may lead to a referral range from a student's distractibility and high activity level or aggression or withdrawal by a pupil to such problems as adjustment difficulties in a new educational setting. An actual evaluation by the school psychologist may not be necessary. Often the school psychologist may be able to make helpful recommendations to the student's teachers after consulting with them and observing the student in the classroom. Permission for the school psychologist to evaluate a student must be obtained with informed parental consent being given.
From what you've told me, Mr. and Mrs. Stevens, I can see that you've also been concerned about Jimmy's lack of progress this year. And the description you've given me of the problems he's having at home will be very helpful to me. However, in order for me to understand the situation better, I'd like to ask you a few more questions. Would that be all right? Has Jimmy recently had a complete physical examination, which includes a visual and hearing examination?
Yes.
The school psychologist would usually ask for what is called a developmental history of the student. This includes questions concerning the student's early development, such as when he or she began to walk and talk, as well as questions about possible medical problems, including accidents, allergies, and if the pupil is taking any medication. Questions concerning changes in the family or school situation which may be contributing to the student's difficulties are also included.
Yes, Dr. Walker, I can see where this information would be helpful to you and to your educational team in their work with Jimmy. But what I don't understand is why you think he needs a psychological evaluation. Just what is that anyway? I mean, what will happen to Jimmy if we sign this form giving our consent for the evaluation?
First, I want you to both understand that you do have a choice as to whether you want to permit this evaluation to take place. If you do decide to let me do the evaluation, what I'll do is see Jimmy privately. I'll explain to him why I'm seeing him, and then I'll ask him to do quite a variety of tasks. His responses on these tasks will help me to find out where his academic strengths and weaknesses lie. His teachers and I then, along with the other members of his educational team, will be much better able to plan for his future instruction. Let me explain the psychological evaluation in more detail.
First, the school psychologist will try to be sure that the student is comfortable within the evaluation situation. The psychologist will explain why the student is seeing him or her, and what will be done with the information gained during the evaluation. The evaluation tasks will be briefly described, and with the pupil's cooperation, they will begin the tasks. These tasks are included in different evaluation instruments, usually called scales or tests. The student will not be expected to know the answers to all of the questions. His or her responses to the tasks will be compared with those of other students of the same age to help determine where he or she may be having difficulty. School psychologists are also trained to observe the student's behavior during the evaluation.
I'd like you to draw a picture of a child. You can draw yourself or one of your friends or whomever you'd like to draw. Go ahead and begin. There's more paper here if you need it.
They observe how a pupil approaches a problem, if he perseveres or gives up easily on some tasks, if he seems to have difficulty comprehending instructions, and so on. All of the tasks are samples of the student's behavior with different types of learning material. The examples which will be given in this film are similar to, but not the same as, the actual tasks used in an evaluation by a school psychologist. Some of the tasks measure the student's ability to see and reproduce shapes. Others are questions designed to sample the student's knowledge of information usually known by students of his or her age level.
Jimmy, name 4 animals which have fur.
A lion.
Some of the questions ask the pupil to define words.
Very well, Jimmy. Now I'd like you to tell me what these words mean. The first word is car. What is a car?
Something that drives. You need gas. Someone drives it and they go places with it.
Some deal with mathematical reasoning.
At 20 cents each, what will 4 ice cream cones cost?
The school psychologist also usually tests to see if the student may be having difficulty in the areas of auditory or visual perception. This is not the same as the physical ability to see or hear. The pupil's vision and hearing should, of course, be tested to be certain that no physical problems exist in either area. However, even if hearing and visual ability are normal, a student may still be having what are called perceptual problems in one or both areas. Perception refers to the brain's ability to process and interpret what the eyes see and the ears hear, so that it will have meaning to the individual. Many students have difficulty and need specialized training in order to be able to correctly interpret the sensations which their eyes and ears are sending to their brains. For example, we have all learned that this is a cup. No matter what its orientation or position, it is still a cup. Most children understand this concept before they reach school age. However, this is not true about the symbols which we use in reading English. We know that these are the letters B, D, and P. To many young children, and to older ones with visual perceptual problems, they are not perceived as being different from each other. Since the parts are very similar, and the only thing which has changed is the orientation or position of the parts, the whole letters are not interpreted as being different from one another. In learning the letters we use in reading English, unlike what the child has learned about the cup and other objects within his environment, the orientation of the letter and its parts is very important in recognizing the letter. This is extremely confusing to youngsters with this type of visual perception problem. They may also read words backwards, such as saw for was. As you can imagine, this type of visual perception problem makes learning to read very difficult. Most children learn these skills by first or second grade, but some need specialized training in this area to help with these types of problems. Some of the tasks done by students during a psychological evaluation require visual perception and memory skills, or being able to understand and remember what they have seen.
Jimmy, I'd like you to look at these pictures and remember what you see.
Some students have auditory perceptual problems, or difficulties interpreting and remembering what they have heard. In order to check for this type of problem, some of the tasks require auditory memory skills, or being able to recall and repeat what one has heard.
Now, Jimmy, I'm going to say some words, and when I'm finished, I want you to say them back to me. The words are red, lamp, dog, pillow.
Red, lamp, dog, and pillow.
Some of the tasks will require that the student use his hands and eyes and balance skills.
I'm going to throw this ball to you, and I want you to catch it in both hands. Go ahead. Very good. Can you throw it back to me? Fine. Okay, now I'd like you to catch it in the hand that you usually write with. Fine. Good. Now catch it in the other hand. Very nice. Okay. Now I'd like you to stand on one foot. Okay, just keep standing. Good. Now stand on the other foot. Okay, do you want to try it again? Okay, stand on the other foot. Fine. Okay, let's go back and sit down. Jimmy, I'd like you to watch the end of this pencil. Keep your eyes right on it. Good.
Some include being able to assemble things. And some require the student to sort or categorize objects or pictures logically.
Okay, now Jimmy, I'd like you to tell me which of these pictures would go with which of these pictures. Go ahead and just place these up here with these ones.
Some ask the student to use his or her imagination and language skills.
Jimmy, I'd like you to tell me a story about this picture.
Well, looks like they just ate dinner. Everyone's at the table doing something. And the mother and the father are both looking at the kids like they're doing something wrong.
Jimmy, how are a horse and a pig alike? These are examples of some of the types of things we will be doing during the evaluation. They will include measuring his skills in the areas of general information, vocabulary, arithmetic, reproduction of designs, visual and auditory perception, categorization, and verbal reasoning. Sometimes personality assessment may also be necessary, as a student's personality may be a factor in his educational difficulties. Most students really seem to enjoy the task. Depending on Jimmy's responses to the various items, I may ask him to do others that will help me to further specify the areas where he may be having difficulty. Do you feel that you would like me to go ahead with the evaluation?
Yes, I think we would, don't you?
You'll just sign this form then.
After the evaluation, the school psychologist interprets the student's responses, checking with his teachers to see if they are similar to his responses to those types of tasks in the classroom. Then, the psychologist relates these findings to the pupil, where appropriate, and his or her parents. The psychologist will also discuss the options available for getting whatever help the pupil may require.
Yes, Mr. and Mrs. Stevens, I think that you'll be very pleased that you decided to give your consent for the psychological evaluation. However, before I begin to go over my findings with you and Jimmy, I want to explain that my report must, by federal law, be held in strict confidence. You, as Jimmy's legal guardians, will of course have access to it, and before these records can be released, we must have your consent. Do you have any questions about this?
No.
Okay. Now, according to my evaluation,
The school psychologist describes the student's areas of academic strengths and weaknesses with the student where appropriate, and with the parents or legal guardians. Then the alternatives for remediation of the student's difficulties will be discussed, as well as the positive and negative aspects of each. These alternatives may include such options as placement in a specialized class setting, help available through community agencies or through the use of medical facilities, specialized help given within the child's own classroom or school setting for part of the school day, as well as other means of fulfilling the student's needs. The psychologist will often also make suggestions as to how the student's parents can help their child at home. If a student is handicapped or identified as needing special education and/or related services, an individualized education program called IEP must be developed for that student to assure that his or her needs are met. The pupil's parents or legal guardians have the right to participate in the program planning conference for the development of the IEP for their child, and are encouraged to do so. When final plans for the means of meeting the student's needs have been agreed upon, the procedures for gaining the necessary services are begun.